Do not buy land in Arkansas.
Don't do it. Wouldn't be prudent.
Not until you see this video.
Watch this video first.
And check with us.
Yeah, check with us first.
I'm Brent.
I'm Alan.
We're the Living in Arkansas team.
And we're pumped to be here today to talk to you about why to not buy land in Arkansas, but ultimately to see if it's a fit for you to buy land and build.
And so we're getting after it right now.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. We appreciate all your viewership, and we look forward to helping you when you get to Northwest Arkansas. Let's jump in it, Brent.
Yeah, don't forget to reach out and connect with us. Days, nights, weekends, whatever. We're going to answer your questions. We absolutely love connecting with people, answering their questions about land, houses, and building projects in Northwest Arkansas.
Absolutely.
So the first thing on our list is wells and water rights and how best to get water to your property. And Alan, we're actually, you're in the process of building a house right now, so I'd love for you to speak on this.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of developing a 5-acre parcel right now, building approximately a 3,100 square foot house on the 5 acres. So we'll talk about a few different things here today. And by the way, we have access to builders. So if building's something you want to do, that's kind of in our wheelhouse, and we can get you set up with that to start that. So all that said, we're on about 5 acres here, 5.3 acres here, just north of Tawnytown in Northwest Arkansas. And as far as the wells and septics go, did we say wells and septics?
Just wells
and water.
Connected to rural water.
So in this particular area, and a lot of the areas where you see the gravel roads that are county maintained, they typically have county water available. So for example, to hook up to county water here, the meter fee is $1,900, and then of course you've got to run the pipe from the meter onto the house. There are some properties that are a little more rural, or maybe sit further back off the roadways, that and there's a lot of that around here, that you might have to drill a well. So well pricing runs so much per foot, and they do have some minimums, and so it'd be kind of typical to spend $7,000 on a well as a baseline. If you were on top of a mountain and they had to do a whole bunch of drilling, it could cost you tens and twenties and thirties of thousands of dollars pretty easily. So that's one of the things that you got to take into account when you're considering the property, as well as the terrain and what the say rock features are, and those kind of things. What's under the ground is really what matters when drilling a well.
Everything he just said is exactly why you got to reach out and connect with us, so that we can be your advocate for you and really discover these things with you. Be your boots on the ground, answer these questions, and really tell you, like, no, you don't want that piece of property because of any of these reasons that we're going to get to, and water being a primary source of one of them.
Yeah, love to have water.
Yeah, me too. So the next item, Alan, is septic or sewers. Those are really our two big options in Northwest Arkansas. I know in most of the cities, if you're building in a lot in a neighborhood, you're going to have sewer systems.
Yeah, it's there ready to connect.
They just tap right in. But for like your 5-acre parcel, let's go with that example again, you're doing a septic system. What does that look like for the process? Yeah,
so as far as getting it done, you have to contact a sanitarian, which is somebody that's certified by the health department, to come out to the property. And they dig a nifty hole in the ground like this one, and they do a drain test, and they figure out how much the flow rate is for it. And then once they figure that out, then they calculate whether you can get a septic there, and if so, how big. So part of that's the tank and part of it's the drain field. And so for this particular property, 4-bedroom, 3-bath home, we're going to have a 1,000-gallon tank and a 400 foot of lateral lines to deal with the effluent. All that said, we're really looking at around $7,000 to install the septic tank itself, and then about $500 to $800 in the permitting process and getting it signed off by the county and the health department and so on.
So he just showed you the perk test hole. So I want to tell you a quick story about that. My good buddy he's wanting to build, and he's been dreaming about building for a while, and he found this piece of property, and it's relatively level, and it was 3 acres out in Lincoln area, and he loves that area out there. And we had it in the contract for a percolation test to happen. Well, it comes back for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. He was going to have 1,100 feet of septic line, septic lines.
So all of a sudden the cost goes sky high.
The cost went from $6,000 to $8,000 to almost $20,000 because there was an issue with the water table, and there was shale at like 8 inches deep. And so septic is a huge reason you got to reach out for us, and so we can
help walk you through that for sure. Yeah.
It's more than just buying dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. It's more than just buying a pile of dirt. So, we can help you with that.
So this is something that you're going through right now, is getting building permits. We're out in the country in this, where we're shooting right now. Mm-hmm. But if you're in the city, there's a lot more permits. If you're out in the country, there's a little bit less.
Yeah.
So what are you experiencing?
So with the permitting process in the county areas, that's the unincorporated areas that are not within city limits, there's a lot less hoops to jump through. So with that said, if you fall within a city, you're going to have everybody and their brother in your pocket for a permit fee and inspections and all kinds of things. There's less of that in the county where we are right now. So, for example, I'll have a health department certification of the septic system, and the electric company will actually put the line in from the pole out by the road about 700 feet from here, and they will run that right up to the house. So at that point the electrician will come in and do their thing. Not your typical kind of building things that you have to experience and go through in the city. It's a lot more lenient as to what you can build and so on. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration, and that's a great reason to contact us so we can help walk you through that. It varies so much from location to location, and it varies so much from city to city, county to county, and so on. There's a specific thing, for example, in like the Fayetteville area. If you're in the city, they have some specific restrictions about if you're building on a hillside, you have to leave a certain percentage of the trees, and while that's neat and it's good for the environment and all that, it's actually rendered some properties unbuildable. So it'd be good to know that before you went and spent your money on it. So
yeah, you can't just look at it and say I want that one and not know anything about it. So easements, we just sold a property in south of Fayetteville, a little bit south of Fayetteville, and it had a power line easement going right across it. And when we sold part of it to 2 different customers, 2 different clients, we had to build in an easement, 15 feet right-of-way easement for the power poles to go in to service 2 other pieces of property. So easements are going to be a big part of, you could find a nice piece of property, but you may not realize that it may have a gas line going right across the middle. There's a utility power pole. Sometimes it's just a single pole feeding your neighbor, or sometimes it's the big 750 kilowatt industrial lines going through those giant towers. We have a few of those in Northwest Arkansas, not too many.
Well, on the easement thing specifically, like on this property, we had to give a utility easement to the electric company, 600 feet long, 15 feet wide, so they could bring the electric up to the house. And like Brent was saying with this other property that we're in process of helping a client sell, again, had to have the easements in place and all that. It's quite possible that you could come in and buy a property that didn't have an electric easement, even though electric may be, right down the road, and then all of a sudden you couldn't get electric after it closed. So we're here to protect you against stuff like that. Another thing you'll see in this area from time to time is properties that don't have a legal access easement. So that means that you can buy a property that you can't actually drive to. You can't just drive across someone else's property to get to it. There are some remedies for that, which are legal, but you have to go through a legal process to deal with that. So there's that. But all that said, you need to make sure that you have accessibility to the property for one, and also that you have everything you need in the property from a standpoint of getting the utilities that you have available into you.
Exactly. All right, so the next thing on our list is future expansion for cities and knowing about developments that are going in next to you. And sometimes around here in Northwest Arkansas, there's a lot of chicken manufacturing, chicken production. We put together chickens, actually quite the reverse, but there's a lot of chicken plants, and that's a really big industry. We have the home of Tyson Foods here, George's Chicken, and Simmons Foods as well. And so there's some of your neighbors may have chicken farms, and you just have to know what those long barns are that look like silver lines from the satellite view. But knowing who your neighbor is, but also future expansion of the city, future highways that are coming in that they're projected, and also like the airport, they're expanding at some point in the next 25 years. They say they're expanding another runway. Just knowing these things. And so have you had any experience with?
Well, that's a great point, because we looked at a piece of property before purchasing this one that wasn't far from here. It's about a mile from here. When I pulled it up on the maps for future development, there's going to be a freeway ramp about a quarter mile from it, so that was a little less than desirable for us. But just knowing what to look for in those type situations helps matters. And that would have been quite the surprise for someone that's going in and buying that property, not knowing that the freeway ramp's going to be there someday.
The inverse idea of that too is if you buy a piece of property where there is going to be a highway projected, that could be future property value going up too, because it's making that area more connected to
absolutely
where the work and where people are going to work, Bentonville, Fayetteville, areas like that. And so covenants. Usually out here in the country, you're not going to have covenants.
We're out in the country. In reality, we're about 10 minutes from town, and we're about 12 minutes from a Walmart, so I don't think we're that far out. But it's pretty easy in Northwest Arkansas to get out and away from it all if that's what you wanted to do. Good news, the further you get out away from it all, the less the property costs. So there's some definite pluses to that.
Yeah, and so one thing to talk about covenants is you might be coming from a neighborhood that has similar houses. There's rules about keeping it clean and organized, no derelict cars or storage units randomly in the front yard. And out in the country, there's no rules like that. So you really need to have a perspective, get out on the road to see the land and be boots on the ground and actually see the land to what your neighbors look like, what buildings, maybe you have a car collector that's not really a car collector, but he's just a junkyard. I'm not trying to be mean, but there's just those properties, those neighbors out there, and maybe that makes you go, okay, I don't want 5 acres, I want 40 acres because I want to be in the middle and I don't want to see my neighbors. And that's a possibility.
Because they might do what they do, and you might not like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so with covenants, I would love for you to speak on deed restrictions as well.
Yeah, so you find more of that in neighborhoods, and even though some neighborhoods sometimes, like for example, there's a neighborhood out of Elkins that the parcels are all like 20 and 30 acres, but it is in a neighborhood, and they are all under deed restrictions as to what you can and can't do and what you can and can't build and the color of the home and so on. So everybody kind of knows how deed restrictions work, but more to the point is just because a property is of a certain size, it doesn't mean that it has or doesn't have deed restrictions. So that's something that in the sales process that we work with the title company to make sure that it has or doesn't have what you're looking for your individual needs.
Certain deed restrictions might include no mobile homes on the property, or it has to have there might be it has to be over 2,500 square feet in certain, even out in the country, sometimes there's a deed restriction on that.
So there was actually a deed restriction on this property, even though my neighbor over there has 84 acres. My neighbor over there has about 140 acres. My neighbor over there has about 35 acres. But there was a deed restriction on this property, this 5 acres, for no mobiles and also that the home square footage had to be a minimum of 2,300 square feet. So again, just because you're out in the country doesn't mean there's no restrictions.
All right, so we're getting to the final end here. When you do buy a piece of property in Northwest Arkansas and you reach out and you have us help you, you have to have a plan in action for what you're going to do with that land. If you're just going to buy it and someday sit on it, okay, but let's have a plan of action to taking care of that. You need to have somebody checking on the property. You need to have no trespassing signs posted, making sure that there's not people dumping on your property, illegal camping or hunting. And then also, if you're going to build, let's build quickly, because don't just sit on your land. So yeah, that's any other points that you want to make?
You know, I do want to touch on pricing, because sometimes you'll look in, like you know, on our website, and you see some land, like say Bella Vista. You can buy a lot all day long, a half-acre lot in Bella Vista for, you know, $3,000, $3,500. So here, one of the things that very much plays into cost in pricing of land is the terrain. So there's a lot of places here that are on absolute cliff sides or on very steep hills. So as you start looking at that from a development standpoint, the less flat the property, the more the development cost that goes into it, as you have to spend money on foundation, you know, extra foundation work and pier work and engineering and the soil and stuff like that. So just keep in mind that cheap doesn't mean good value sometimes, and that applies, you know, for whether it's, you know, a half acre or 50 acres. There's some 50-acre parcels that are a couple $1,000s an acre, maybe $3,000 an acre, and there's other 50-acre parcels that are $20,000 an acre. We just had a conversation on the way over here about one that was $23,000 an acre. It's 119 acres, so 2.7 million approximately.
And this just hit my mind while we were filming this, is you have a creek way back there and floodplains.
Yeah.
Flood insurance. You know, there's some lower parts to Northwest Arkansas where some creeks go by, and you know, it rains 48 inches a year on average in Northwest Arkansas. And so when it rains really hard, really quick. It doesn't just drizzle all day. It'll rain really hard, and then it'll be cloudy the rest of the day, or it might just be sunny. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that can fill up a creek pretty quick, and that can have some floods. Now, we don't typically have places flooded out and like disaster
flooding,
disaster areas, but because they've done a lot of work with the creek beds and the drainage fields for the water to get to the lakes and the rivers and reservoirs, but you also need to check on, is the property in the floodplain, and what does it take to build on that property if it is in the floodplain to bring your house out of the flood zone.
So this property, actually the back 2 acres that you're seeing over our shoulder, is a little downhill, and it is in the floodplain down next to that creek. And so you know, part of our building envelope, where our house will sit right up here in front of you, is you know, this is higher up here, so we had to provide a certification from the contractor that showed that the house would be built on the part of the property that was higher rather than in the floodplain. And again, the need for flood insurance. Before we bought, I talked to the landowner next door that's been for more than 30 years. He said the creek's been out of the bank a couple of times. His workshop down there, his barn sits down the hill, and he said water's barely gotten in it once. But these are the kind of things that and know, and that's something that, you know, we're here to protect you from.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up, any last thoughts?
That is it. So this is why it's important to reach out, connect with us, days, nights, weekends, phone number, email,
carrier pigeon, whatever
text,
you like. You know?
Yeah, whatever you got, just do it. And we would love to chat with you, answer some questions. And until next time,
we are happy to serve. We're here for you. We're the Northwest Arkansas Dream Team, here to support your real estate needs. And remember to smash that subscription button, smash that like button, and come to Northwest Arkansas. We'll show you around.
Catch you next time.